Can you just walk us through how this came about and what went through your mind when you got the first phone call from Sean and as it all progressed to this point?
Yeah, I think, like I said, when I heard Sean got the job, and I said it in my opening statement, it's like there are certain people that you gravitate towards in your business, and people you have, you share ideas with. Over the years, I've shared ideas with Sean, and during the interview process, like, man, this is a guy I like to work with. So quite honestly, I said, man, I want to pursue this. So I was very aggressive in pursuing it, and I think it was a series of conversations with Sean and hashing out his vision of what the Brooklyn Nets are going to look like in the future, how I would fit in, and quite honestly, how passionate I was for the job. Like, he wanted to know, do you want this job? And that was a big part of it. And then meeting with the ownership group, I thought that would really kind of, I still didn't have the job yet, but that kind of like sealed it. Like, I was, very impressed with their presentation, their presence, their understanding of what Sean and his group is trying to build here. So I can't tell you the exact timeline of all that. It's a little blurry because we were in the playoffs with the Hawks, but I would say for an interview process, it couldn't have been more pleasant and revealing.
And Sean, for you, what differentiated Kenny that made you know that he was the guy you wanted to be the head coach of your team?
Well, I think I mentioned it a little bit before. It was obviously, we've talked about his passion for the job, but it was the person he is, the high character and the values that he has. And I was, the first time I met Kenny, I think it was about 5 years ago in San Antonio, where the Atlanta Hawks sent a contingent over to San Antonio, and they got some work in during the summer, and I saw Kenny work firsthand, and that's when I look at the relationships that he had formed with the guys on his team and was forming with Spur players, how he was able to get those guys to develop and do the things that he had asked was pretty remarkable to me. It was pretty clear cut, and I've sort of said before, it's not often you get your number one guy. So I think we're happy to be working together, and I'm obviously happy that Kenny's that guy.
Daryl Joyner, WPX 11, congratulations. This question is for both of you. We see the connection with the San Antonio Spurs with Budenholzer and Sean and now Jacques Vaughn. Is it safe to assume that is a model that you may want to pattern the Nets after, considering how much success that organization has had over the past 15 years or so?
Can I answer first? Definitely. But it's going to be different, and I think with the Hawks we took a lot. Mike Budenholzer learned from the Spurs, and it was a different market, different situation, and so we changed a fair amount of things. I think Coach Budenholzer would say that, but we had a good model, and I think it's similar here. I have the kind of luck of experience, kind of knowing Sean and observing the Spurs, and then being with the Hawks for 4 years where we did things a little differently. So I think it's going to be a combination of both of them. And quite honestly, from my personal experience with the Rockets, Knicks, I have other influences. So tough part is going to be figuring all that out, how we put that together. But I'm confident we can do it.
No, I totally agree with what Kenny said. I mean, we're lucky to have had great mentors in our lives. Obviously, we'll look back and at the Spurs, and as one of them, Kenny will look at Atlanta and the rest of his mentors that he's looked at and he's touched upon around the league. But again, this isn't San Antonio, this isn't Atlanta, this is Brooklyn, and we'll do our best to make it our own. And as I said plenty of times, you can take a lot of the values and so forth that we've both grown up and learned from in our various different lives before here, and me specifically San Antonio, I can take those and put them into any workplace environment, and I know that there'll be a certain level of success just because of the way things were handled.
Kenny, Dario Melendez back, New York One. Congratulations, by the way. And you mentioned before you had a vision for the Brooklyn Nets are going to be, and Sean also mentioned this isn't San Antonio, this isn't the Knicks. What is that vision for this Nets team?
build patiently, intelligently, and from my standpoint, the message that these guys are going to be hearing is that we're going to put a competitive group first and foremost on the floor. You say, well, competitive. Everybody's competitive in the NBA, but to be able to do it 82 games, night after night, minute after minute, play by play, that's a heck of a task, a heck of a challenge even for NBA players. So that's going to be first and foremost a group that, when the Brooklyn fans, after they watch a game, they're looking at, man, that's a competitive group. That group competes. So that's first. I think the second value is a team that shares the ball and plays together. I mean, both offensively and defensively, like playing as a team. We're going to have to do this as a group. And I would say thirdly, a group that has high character, that's going to be, great with the fans. You're going to have an experience with Thad Young and Sean Kilpatrick. Like, man, these are good guys, or high character guys. They play with great spirit and great integrity. So to me, those are without getting too basketball specific, those are kind of big picture ideas.
Hey, Kenny, Pat O'Keefe, News 12 Brooklyn. As you looked ahead to this next step in your career eventually coming, how much were you aware of this organization as a potential landing spot for you, and what were your thoughts as you looked at it from afar?
Yeah, it's funny. As an assistant coach, I made it a rule, like, I'm not thinking about head coaching job. You might say, well, no way, that's not true, but I felt like if I focus on the Atlanta Hawks and us doing well, I just felt the more we could have success, the more chances, that maybe I'd get a chance at one of these prestigious jobs. But in Atlanta, we played you guys. We played the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs, and they gave us a heck of a run. So I realized that there's good players here and a good program. And then I walked into Barclays Center and I was like, wow, like this is pretty cool. This is something special. So I was, aware, especially being a New Yorker too, like when this job came up, and like, man, this is something I'd like to pursue. I hope that answers your question.
Brian Mahoney from the Associated Press. Sean, I think the Nets have already had something like 5 coaches since they've been in Brooklyn. Just in your view, when you talk building a program, how important is it to have someone in place who, is going to stick for a few years, and that's kind of has to be some kind of a starting point to make a lasting program?
Well, I would hope every organization starts out that way with the obvious choice of saying, look, he's going to be here, and we want to build this together. And with Kenny, I knew that's somebody that I could have a partnership with. We're going to be collaborating the whole time. It's not front office and coaching staff, and no differential there. We're in the same rooms together. We're, as Kenny's mentioned before, we're in that foxhole together, and that's what I looked for in a partner. I'm glad Kenny's here, and we'll do this together. But it's not just the two of us. It's the staff that not only I've put around myself, but what Kenny's putting around him. That's going to be important and will lead us into the future. Hopefully together for a long time.
Kenny, we hear the word player development associated with your name so often. When you think about what's made you excellent at player development, what are some of those things that you point to that sets you apart from the rest?
Yeah, I could give an hour-long clinic on this, and because I think the misconception of player development is just, a coach working with a player on the floor for 30 minutes or shooting with them. It is a total approach to helping a player improve. And that goes from on-court work to the weight room, to nutrition, to player performance, to off-the-court habits. It encompasses so many things. And you need a great staff. Because it's not just one coach that's going to do it. You need a great organization to develop a player. So putting all those mechanisms in place, I think that's the challenge right now for us, to give these guys, all the help they need to become better. And I really think, what player development is caring. Like, you care. You really care. We have a staff, from your equipment manager to your head coach to your general manager. You care about these guys, and when you care for them and treat them the right way, they will play to maximum ability.
Coach Ryan Rucco with the Yes Network. I know Mr. Prokhorov has talked a lot about New York and this market and how it was going to be important with this next hierarchy to sort of have people and then players who understand and appreciate how things might be a little different here. You're a guy who's coached here, you grew up here, you know this area. In what tangible ways do you think this market affects basketball in this area?
Good question. Yeah, New York's basketball. Brooklyn, I was thinking the other day, like, Brooklyn is basketball. Like, I think, like, when my dad grew up, it was like the Brooklyn Dodge, they were here. And, like, when I grew up, it was like Pearl Washington, Ed Davin, like all the great, Chris Mullin, like that, Brooklyn really spoke to me, and man, I'm going to go into the park in Brooklyn and play basketball. That, you walk around and you see the guys playing 3-on-3 and, in the outdoor playground. So, yeah, I do agree with Mr. Prokhorov. I think Sean agrees. I think probably everybody knows New York's a different market, and we have those discussions when we're talking about players, staff, the ability to thrive here and perform here is different. So it's definitely we are, I think, as an organization, very aware of that.